your own safety, but for everybody that you encounter. So thank you all very much and happy holidays.
All right. Thank you, Teresa. Stay safe. Merry Christmas to you and your family as well.
Merry Christmas.
Merry
Merry
Christmas.
Christmas to you. Bye.
Bye. We are
Thank you.
going to stay in the Zoom room where we have Lieutenant Governor Josh Tenorio joining us for our weekly check-in and progress report. Good morning, LT.
Good morning, Sabrina, and good morning, Andy.
Good morning.
Merry Christmas.
Merry
Christmas.
So what do you have for us this week? I know you got a press conference at 10 o'clock.
Yeah, so today we'll be basically announcing some details about our efforts to support distance learning. Even though, we're trying to work towards the goal of face-to-face, and even though there are parents that may agree to face-to-face, there's a large number of parents that are not comfortable because of the situation in their own household. So this effort is to try and make sure we have different ways that we could get and extend connectivity to households. And so we'll be pushing out some details there. That also includes, some relief for students at the University of Guam and Guam Community College that will be able to reach them as well. And then bringing on a new model, or I guess access to a new facility called Community Learning Centers that we'll talk about as well. So I just want to say that it has been many weeks and months of planning and working with the Guam Department of Education as we address all sorts of things because of the pandemic. But we'll continue to do our best and continue to try and push resources through a pipeline to get out there. I think that my observation is that it's been a very stressful time for students, for everybody. Yeah. But this year, including the tail end of the last school year, there's no question that there's a big negative effect, a harm really to all the students globally. There's a lot of time that is going to be taken to kind of bring them back and catch them up because they've been basically losing so much time. And a lot of time with each other, right? A lot of, I think the essential thing for school also is the socialization and trying to prepare for that as we head into this new phase, but also keeping an eye on what's happening outside the borders with the increased numbers going on throughout the country, some concerns in our own region. And then of course, this new thing out in Europe that, as we know, our world is so small that things can sneak into your place, even though they originate thousands and thousands of miles away. So I think it's really a balance, but really this morning we'll be focusing on trying to support the students.
So the 10 a.m. press conference, I want to say this is going to be what we have been talking about, or what you've been talking about on the link regarding those expanded access, like at the libraries. I think the subsidies. Is that correct?
That's right. And basically indication that we've initiated and DOE is beginning taking the lead in the procurement process. So it's about $12 million that we're focusing in to support online learning in different phases, all the way from the university down to the schools, all schools, including private schools and charter schools. So that's pretty much the focus. But the work with DOE, they're preparing for their board meeting on the 22nd, and we've been spending a considerable amount of time with the superintendent and his team to support all of the different things. So for example, there is a return of Department of Education employees. They're returning from Guam Department of Public Health back into DOE. And I think that, first of all, I want to say I'm very grateful and thankful that the school health counselors and the social workers and the school attendance officers in the early part were really doing their share to supplement our forces. I don't think that we could be able to expand the kind of community health that we did without their support. So they're all basically on the return back to the Department of Education. I think it's very helpful that they are very well experienced with doing the testing, with doing contact tracing, with the surveillance and investigation. They're all trained, so it's going to help them as we open school, return people to campuses. And I'm hopeful that by the time we do it, the governor will likely authorize openings, but the decision and the method of opening is going to be left to all the school administrators, the school board through DOE, and then each of the governing bodies of the private schools and the charter schools. So we're kind of like working on that front. School bus continues. We just had a meeting with Department of Education and Public Works on Friday to address school operations, and the next round, that outreach will continue with the private schools this week, with Public Works talking about their support. And of course, with them, there's a little different issue because unlike the public schools in which the buses are transporting the students from their villages straight to the schools, in the private schools, there's a bus interchange, an exchange where the multiple schools have students in neighborhoods that come into an exchange. And I think that's where there's a bit more planning and coordination that is needed. And I would say that's still in the works to support that, but the Director of Public Works is pretty confident that he could provide that support as we roll into this option. And I just want to say again that a lot of parents and families are concerned about their children going into school. So I would tell them that this is their choice. The choice is going to be theirs based on their situations. I know a lot of people have seniors living in their homes, multi-generational homes, so there's additional risk for exposure. But I think the point is to try and figure out how we can reduce that amount of stress and give the parents and or the guardians the decision-making authority over their own lives on how best to meet the educational needs of the students. And I think that's the thing, because there's a lot of anticipation. I'm hopeful that with the different with the amount of vaccines that are going to be coming in. We had the vaccine committee meet last night, so I'm waiting to hear what their recommendations are, but there's a priority for school-based staff to get vaccinated, to have the option to vaccinate, because as we know at this time, vaccinations are also voluntary. People need to be comfortable and be able to absorb the information and make their choices. But I'd say based on everything I've been seeing, I do support and encourage people to get vaccinated and make that choice. But of course, make that choice when they're ready.
I wanted to ask you about that, Lieutenant Governor. We know that you had the COVID, and so has there been any update on when possibly you'll be able to get the vaccine or the antibodies, anything like that?
Well, I think allegedly we have antibodies, but we're just not sure how long they last. And I think that the one of the screening things that they're using to determine priority for vaccines is that they really try and, I believe, screen out people who have had COVID within 90 days from the point that they've been offered to be vaccinated. So for me personally, I guess I'm waiting in line based on what the committee says and the order of the population that's going forward. And there's a lot of, that they need to get further into the order of the critical employees, right? Because we have, I said the school-based staff, that it probably includes, and if you're looking at the CDC guidelines, they're looking at transportation workers. They're looking at grocery employees that work at grocery stores, people that have a very high interaction with the general public. So we don't have all the doses at this time to support everything, but that's the purpose of them folding in the different priorities. So there is still, that I think that that's still active. And I just say that even though a healthcare worker, for example, decides that they do not want to vaccinate in this first round, if and when they do, they'll be able to fall right in at any point in time that they wish, since this vaccine effort is going to be lasting for months and months. So I think that a lot of it will be based too on the amount of supply that we get. And we've been fortunate, if you've been watching national news, a lot of the states have been upset with reduced amounts of vaccines that were given, and there seemed to have been some sort of distribution planning error that General Perna, who's in charge of Operation Warp Speed, talked about. But we in Guam have been fortunate to maintain the supply based on what we have been anticipating and what we've expected. And then I think that operation has been going well. It went over through the weekend, and we'll be getting an update in a few minutes on how things go and how they roll out the next phase of the priorities for the vaccine. But I'm an advocate of getting media vaccinated as part of that essential worker. And I really do think it's gonna be helpful for the general public to see folks that they are familiar with. And it's interesting, right? Because there are people that you don't know that know you very well. They are dependent on you for their schedule in the morning, and you have a lot of influence on them. So when they see your comfort level and your own decision-making process, I do think it's going to be positive for the effort to educate people on the vaccine.
Right, and Crystal was talking about that.
Yet for me, but when I do it, I'll definitely do it publicly and part of that group to help encourage people to do it.
Well, I know Crystal was talking about that yesterday, that there was discussions about 2 representatives from each media outlet to possibly get the vaccine. And I know that some of us are ready to join the vaccination. So just let us know. Let us know when, and we'll step up.
Yes, and I'm pretty sure it's going to be a bit more sooner than later. That's my observation based on everything I'm seeing.
Well, speaking
it's like the media Hunger Games with the vaccination. Like we can only nominate 2. I volunteer as tribute.
LT, what is the update on Moderna?
Well, Moderna, I believe that we haven't received our first shipment yet, but as I understand it, the Moderna vaccines are all being boxed and being distributed. And I don't have any real-time information about that yet. Guam Public Health may have, but I haven't heard it yet. But I imagine that we'll know very, very soon when that shipment will come.
Okay.
Well, the shipment for the Pfizer was kind of a surprise. JQ was saying, we don't know, we'll and then it just showed up.
It came in earlier than we had anticipated. It's so interesting because it came in on a Dreamliner. There's very few times that a Dreamliner has actually landed on Guam. Those are the 787s. And I thought, when I was up there, I thought, thank God we have the runway to receive it. It was a direct flight from San Francisco. So we know we have capacity to receive direct
exactly.
I mean, those are all critical things as part of the distribution points, but it's also kind of like good thinking for us as we look towards the future and things stabilize and we try and increase our capacity to travel outside and into Guam in the future when it's safe. But yeah, I was excited that a United 787 came to Guam. Wow. That's good.
Big time. I know it's almost impossible to say, but is there any rough idea of when you guys are looking to have all of the people on Guam that want to be vaccinated?
Well, the guess right now, the guesstimate and the projection, even nationally, is into June, into the summer. But if the United States, if our central government or if our federal government increases their purchase of the vaccine supplies and the production of the supplies is expanded, I believe that we'll probably need it closer. And just listening and monitoring the federal effort, I really do think that chances are that that could be expanded in the next administration. That seems to be the buzz. And if you're looking at the Congress, there seems to be a lot more movement to try and support vaccination efforts. So, we'll stay in tune, but I definitely would tell you that the partnership with Department of Defense is critical here in making sure we get that support, and in some cases, the prioritization. And this is where also our size in our island is an advantage, where we could propose and try and get the federal government to agree that fast track availability of vaccination doses to get to that point of herd immunity is much more likelier in our island with our controlled border than many communities in the States. But in order to get there, the general population and a significant percentage of them need to feel comfortable getting the vaccine. So the effort to get media and influencers in to get vaccinated for people to see what that's about and help with the comfort level probably will be key if we're going to be aggressive trying to get to that, to get widespread acceptance and widespread vaccination.
Mm-hmm.
But I think to me, that would be a goal that I'd like to pursue.
Mm-hmm. Your press conference is at 10. We just got word that the congressman is going to be holding a press conference at 11 on COVID relief. Have you had any chance to talk with him on what's going to be happening?
I haven't talked to him. I know the governor and he have been communicating, and obviously, I think that if the congressman's going to be giving a press conference at 11, it's great news. That means that the House and the Senate would be voting and passing the relief package, and I'll be viewing it just like you and optimistic about finally a compromise package, and the first, I think, of several packages to come in, but certainly something that is going to be needed, especially for the large amount of people that are depending on the temporary unemployed assistance. I think people are also going to be looking forward to the second stimulus that has been authorized. I know that Daphne Shimazu and the over at Rev and Tax has been prepared and is prepared as soon as the Treasury Department has to get into law. The Treasury Department has to get them. Yeah. There's a process, but since we've done this already, I'm very optimistic that and confident we'll get. We would release it the fastest way possible. Right. But yeah, so I would say it's 11 o'clock press conference by the congressman. It's a definite indication that the federal relief package is going to likely would have been passed by then.
Mm-hmm. I wanted to get back to the Department of Education because you had mentioned the governor's likely to authorize face-to-face. GDOE is expected at 3 o'clock this afternoon. Our Guam Education Board is holding a meeting at 3 o'clock, and everybody's kind of waiting to see if the announcement is going to be made, because the decision, according to John, was going to be announced today on what they were going to do. So
I just said that we've been working and planning with the affirmative assumption that the governor would authorize face-to-face learning, the early part right after the new year. And so that's been the planning assumption that we have. And of course, the final moments for her to do that will always depend on what the situation is in the community. So over the last week, and I would expect over the next week, as we slowly continue to relax restrictions, we also are making sure we monitor it so that and monitor the numbers so that we can make the best possible decision to authorize school openings. And if things get out of hand over the holiday spirit and too many people are being a little bit too merry, then, I would say that we wouldn't be likely to relax anymore or to open. So really, it's going to be in the community's hands. And I think that our community can do it. They proved it with the Strive for 5, and they've proved it by maintaining the levels of infection, reducing it. But as we know from the past, right, anything can happen, and this thing can overtake us, similar to what has happened throughout the country right now. So I would say, I expect, and we've been very coordinated with Department of Education for them to operate under the assumption that that would happen. You know, it's always planned for the best, but make sure that but if something does happen, we would definitely make sure that safety is number one in driving the decision. And so that's what I'd say is they're definitely operating under the assumption, and I would expect them to look for a date, assuming that the authorization is there from the governor. But if anything goes wrong, that authorization wouldn't be issued.
Anything on the homeless situation?
So right now we've been focusing on really trying to get from the community some supplies and some gifts for the families that are at the shelter. We are still in active acquisition mode, I guess, where we're having a refresh on the procurement to try and go back out. We do need to acquire another shelter. I would just say that we're grateful that we have the global shelter, but quite frankly, it's not a building that I would like people to stay in there for a long period of time. You know, the fact that it doesn't have any recreational space for kids, the fact that you know, that there's just some limitations. It's an older building. You know, we want to make sure that the shelter we acquire, you know, is at least going to be comfortable for folks that are trying to stabilize their lives while we try and figure out longer housing needs for them, housing options. So that's kind of like we need to go somewhere. And I just say that that's been complicated, but we're still going at it. Right now, though, I just want to give a shout out to a whole bunch of private individuals that have stepped forward and organizations that since July have stepped forward. Everybody from the Lions Club to the Guam Bar Association, various church communities have been gathering. I also have a group of ladies that are sort of like anonymous, but they're from Santa Rita, and you know, they don't want to be named, but you know, they're doing things like getting baby clothes and things like that, and trying to push it. So, you know, that we have a large number of kids up there, but we also have a confined amount of space. And like I said, baby formula and diapers have been a big need. I will always say that if people are looking to give and they're trying to figure it out, supporting the formula and diapers would be excellent. And you can do that contacting my office or Catholic Social Services, who is our partner and is operating the shelter on behalf of the government of Guam. But, you know, if we're close to it, I think that, you know, a lot of people have stepped up. There's some gifts coming in, but I would always say the things that always get used up fast, but they're so critical, is the baby formula and the diapers. I definitely focus the ask on that. And then we'll meet with the homeless, with the Interagency Council on Homelessness next week for our final meeting before the new year. And then we'll continue our meeting after that. And that's kind of like it right now. Focus right now on making sure that folks in the shelter at least are supported and have the spirit of Christmas there.
All right. Anything else, LT?
No, I just want to wish you all a Merry Christmas. I'm looking forward to getting this year over with. I can't wait. I think all of us are in the same boat. And I just ask everybody, as we continue to enjoy this little less stress right now, right? Some people are very stressful because of their economic situation, the business owners. But I tell you right now, in your household, you know, there are less people that are sick, but, you know, let's not blow it. Let's continue to hold in place. Be very careful about what you decide to do in the holidays. Make sure you do the responsible thing. And, but, you know, let's look to a brighter year next year, and look forward to speaking with you at our year-end call next week, Sabrina and Andy.
All right. We do already have Brandon Santos. Where's the shelter at, LT? For people who don't know, and also give out your number.
Sure. So 473-1110 is the number for my office. And then the shelter is at Global Dorm, but I would tell you in my team, but I would direct you to channel your donations to Catholic Social Services, and they can best organize it and make sure that they place it in the right places and it gets to the right people. So those are two things. Or, like I said, you can call my chambers at 473-1110. Thank you, Brandon. And thank you, Guam.
All right. And thank you, LT. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Thank you. Merry Christmas.
Thank you.
All right.
Merry Christmas and your first Christmas as a married man.
I'll make the most of it.
Make sure you don't mess up on the gift, Andy.
Oh, I'm sure I will. Don't worry.
Get advice from Sabrina if I were you. Don't wing it on your own. Take care.
All right. Take care. We'll see you next week. All right, that was Lieutenant Governor. Again, he's making the call out. If you'd like to make a donation, they really need donations over at Global Dorms, especially for the infants 0 to 24 months. Formula